Yes. Hmm. How you guys doing tonight? So I decided to talk about experience is money. Right? What is experience? Right? Experience, it's when a human being, a person, has its mind and the body present in the moment, engaged in the now with raw observation. Right? In short terms, experience is living through something. Okay, not reading it. All right, not teaching it, not listening to it, by living it, right? Through all your body, right? How do you gain experience? Right? How do you gain experience? Through exposure, right? You gain experience through exposing yourself to things, to certain terrains that you might not know, right? And sometimes it's inevitable. Sometimes, as children or as young adults, you've been thrown to scenarios or circumstances that they were kind of, you know, disturbing, uncomfortable, dangerous, right? But like I said it before, everything has two sides, right? And exposure can be something dramatic, painful, but it always will always give you something that is inevitable to not end with it in its experience, right? That's the wonderful part about going through whatever anybody goes through, because everything is very different for everybody else, right? And I've considered myself that experience is the true money, right? Not the, like the contemporary conventional that time is money. But people might say, well, you for you to gain experience or have experience, you had to go through time, right? Well, we are in time, right? We are in time. We have watches. Time keeps ticking, right? But what I mean by this is a little bit more deeper. It's what's up? What I mean, it's to experience something is to not know the outcome about everything, right? Studying, right? Going to work, going to college, everything is kind of like an experience, right? To a certain degree, driving a car, right? Traveling, going to vacation. But when I'm talking about real experience, I'm talking to the very foundational, the first layer of a foundation of real truth and power, right? That is going to shock your system, is going to shock your world forever and ever. And because of that, now you're going to possess something that cannot be taken away from you. That's the good part. Okay. I will share this with my a few coworkers, friends, family, that not everybody has to do the same thing. And this is why it's so dangerous. But we all go through that. Sometimes everybody's going through that paycheck and paying the bills, right? But it gets the moment it's gonna hit you, right? Now and years from now, or already hit you, that you're gonna say, okay, what's my own unique experience, right? And how can I bring an income, right? Something. How can I bring something mhm, into my life based on my experience, right? And that's the difference. For me, that's the most wonderful and beautiful part, right? And this is why I believe in my own opinion, corporations take advantage of this, right? Because sometimes we're after that check, right? And we think that we need a better job, right? We need a better job because they pay more. And we're looking at the money. But in reality, having too many jobs is doesn't necessarily gain a lot of experience. Like I said, experience is something that you have been exposed that nobody else has been exposed to. Like rarely. Like a few people have been exposed. That's the type of experience I'm trying to convey tonight, right? Let me put you an example, right? Like people who go to boot camp, right? People who have been in a war situation, people who have been bullied, mm, people who had a brush with death, they almost died when they were young, right? They beat cancer, they were drowning in a pool, right? That was a very traumatic experience. So they came back because they had a brush with death. They came back with knowledge, right? And that knowledge cannot be hidden, right? That experience, we can sense it from far away. We can see somebody who knows how to fight, all right? He doesn't need to tell you he knows how to fight. Just like somebody, a bodybuilder, right? Let me put you another example. Somebody who lifts weights is a bodybuilder. He's not gonna tell you, right? He's not gonna yell out loud, look, I'm a bodybuilder. Automatically you're gonna see his physique, right? And that's the proof that yes, he exercises. We can see it. So that's how experience is gonna come into your life once you find something that you want to expose yourself to, right? And sometimes you will not know the outcome. And I think that's one of the obstacles that we all go through, right? Including myself, people, because we want to know what are we getting into, right? And I get it. I get it. Sometimes like we want to know what I'm getting to, right? We want to know what kind of papers we're signing. And that's okay. I'm not saying that's wrong, right? You should be acknowledging every signature that you write on a piece of paper. But experience is kind of like you being stuck in a city, in a country, in a state for so many years, and you're scared to leave that state or town because you have family ties in there, right? But there's a moment you have hit a plateau, and you know it. We know it. We all know it, but we want to excuse ourselves that no, we have family. I've been here for so long that we don't want to go and travel or get to know other parts of the world or the country or the city or the state, right? And I think this is very important because experience is that touch that makes people seem like they know shit, honestly. Like when you see experienced people, right? And it doesn't necessarily has to be something positive or negative. It's just a traumatic experience, right? Just like somebody who came from war, right? It's not something delightful that he wants to talk about on a daily basis, but he was exposed to it. He was exposed to it, and he cannot go back, right? So he carries that air, he carries that experience in him, on him, wherever he goes. We can feel it, we can sense it, right? And that is knowledge, my friends. That's knowledge that it can be not only monetized with money, but with networking, with connections with people, right? Sometimes people want to talk to you because they think you know something. And that's very true. That's a good thing, right? Not necessarily because you have experience, people are going to be pouring their wallets towards you. I'm not necessarily doing that or saying that. What I'm saying that when you have experienced something, right? Something in your life that you cannot forget, talk about it, right? People want to know it. And when you talk about it, people want to be part of your life, right? And this is how this escalates, right? To networking and to success. Because you never know who you're talking to. And sometimes we want to keep our experiences to ourselves, right? And but sometimes experiences they have to be exposed, right? They have to be exposed because it's healthy for you, healthy for the world, because people want to learn from other people's experiences. We heard that before, right? So this is why I chose to talk about experiences tonight because I've been, in particular in my life, I've been put in situations where it has been dangerous, and I've learned that sometimes life is a paradox, right? The the more you want to save your life, the more you want to play safe, the more weaker in character in mind you will become. I don't know. It's crazy, right? I'm not saying be reckless, right? And just do whatever like an animal. No, right? But I think every time we're becoming more and more sophisticated in a way that we don't want to be exposed to the unknown, right? And a lot of times it's necessary, right? It's necessary because there's a time that you ask yourself, is there something that I need to know? And sometimes sitting in a chair like here or working at a job for 20, 40, 50 years will not give you that spark, right? Will not give you that experience that your inner body, right? Your soul, your mind, whatever you want to call it, needs, right? To feel fulfilled, joyful, all right? Vigorous. And I believe, in my opinion, experience, if it's not the only one, it's one of the top three ingredients of a full life, right? We can see it everywhere, right? The thing is, like, when we start comparing ourselves, like, okay, he has experience on this, yeah, but that's his life. That's his life, and you have to know, and it has to come from within. What do you think that you want to experience in your life? And sometimes it's not what you want to think they want you experience, because sometimes you don't know, right? There's so many options in front of us that you don't know where to pick. Left, right, the middle, you don't know. And it's complicated, right? And you overthink and then you don't do nothing, right? And it just becomes worst, right? Sometimes you just have to make that decision without knowing nothing. I'm just gonna be placed in an uncomfortable position, okay? Because I've been here for so long and I haven't gone nowhere. And sometimes they might criticize you because you're not trying enough or you're not making the enough efforts to succeed. Not everybody's going to succeed in the same place. Not everybody, right? Not everybody's going to succeed in the same place. And it's your responsibility, our responsibility to gain the most experiences that we can in life, right? Because that's the golden key for anything you want in life, right? Like I said, this is the title of my talk today that experience is money, okay? Experience is money. How can you gain experience? Through exposure. What is exposure? It's putting yourself in the unknown. Okay. Are you gonna make people uncomfortable? Are they gonna call you names? Of course. Of course. Of course. And the good thing about experience is failures and successes create experience. Okay? Don't get it twisted. Don't think that, oh, it's only successes that create experience. No. Failures and successes, okay? It doesn't matter the score. They're all both of the same bag. Experience will give you another glow. Experience will give you that confidence to speak out your truth. All right? Regardless if it's weird, different, unconventional. But the most powerful thing about experience, you cannot fake it. That's the thing. That's the thing. Experience cannot be fake. It cannot be fake. If I tell you I can do 100 burpees, right, in 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, I'm going to do them, right? Then it confirms that I know how to do something, right? Because I've done it. Not because I saw it or I read it or somebody said it. Experience is always gonna end and involves you, right? It will always will and it will always will, right? Experience will always have to be and has to be with you, right? Experience, it's your only true nature to get to know the world and people because now they cannot fool you because you've been there, right? Yeah. What's up? Thank you, right? What's up, Cohen the Boeing? My Axel. And so, yeah, guys, I I think this is very interesting and very essential, man, for young kids, right? And you can apply this with babies, with young people, older people, gender. It doesn't matter. It's genderless. It's for everybody, right? Who is alive and has a body and a brain and a mind, right? Exposure, right? Babies, right? I'm a parent. I have kids, right? Sometimes we want to be overprotective, right? And that's okay. But sometimes you need to let them be. You have to let them be exposed to something because this is how they're going to gain their own experience, right? And let me tell you something about when I met people who play it safe all the time, right? They might talk like they know something, and they do because they're still human beings, right? Like I said. Every human being is the true gospel. It's the great news because he's alive and he has an answer that somebody needs or has for somebody. But experience, like I said, cannot be fake, right? If I can tell you I can change your tire, if I can do this to your vehicle, I will do it. If I say I can and I won't do it, so then that's the proof that I don't have experience on what I'm saying that I do, right? And there's nothing wrong to be experienced in everything. That's my whole point about this video tonight. That sometimes we fall into this concept about trying to learn 1,000 things in a year, right? And we don't master none. Because why? Because corporate mainstream media, the more skills you have, the more money you make, but then the more competition you create, right? Multitasking, all that favors, big corporations and jobs, and that's how it is. That's why I believe experience, it doesn't have to be plural all the time or singular, but it's just a few, right? You just have to be exposed to a few things, but fully exposed 100%, right? You were there. You saw it, you felt it, you smelled it, you sensed it, you were there 100%. Okay? You remember like it was yesterday. That's what I'm talking about. That's true experience. Right? That is true experience. I cannot say that I went to war when I have never been to war. Okay? And somebody who has been to war will sense it. Mm. Somebody who has been there will know the terms, the vocabulary, all right, the codes, right, that they were told at that place, right? So experience, guys, cannot be fake, right? You cannot fake knowledge, right? When you're being exposed to something, you will know it, okay? People will know it and will recognize it, all right? And they will gravitate towards you. They will. It's just by default, they will, right? Right? They will gravitate to you and they want your advice, they want your story, right? And this is how conversation starts. And conversation leads to networking, right? And networking, you know it, success, money, right? Right. So yeah, guys, I was just trying to make a quick video about experience. Never stop experiencing, right? Never do. Sometimes you will not know the outcome of things, but don't worry, right? That doesn't mean you're not gaining something. At the moment, things can be confusing, right? Things cannot be understood 100%. And a lot of things in life, you don't have to understand it right away, okay? You have to go through certain training, through certain stages, steps into something because they're preparing you to what's coming next, right? That's how it is. Just like a mother, right? A mother who hasn't had a kid, a woman, I mean, who hasn't had a kid. She's curious, she reads, she goes to the hospital, gets trained how to carry a baby, you know, has a CPR certificate, all that good stuff. But still, she is unexperienced because she hasn't had a baby, period. Right? This is an example to females, right? Right? This is just how it is. A mother or even a parent, right? The father. It doesn't matter how many classes you go in. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's good to prepare yourself, but that doesn't mean you're experienced. You're not. You just been into training. Mhm. To train and to do something are very different things, right? I can train to war, but if I have never been in war, I don't know what war is like. That's how it is, right? So preparing for a baby, it's good. we gain knowledge, but it's not until we have our first baby, our first children, we get to know what it is and how it feels, and 100% what it is. And you can apply this in everything, in everything. Right? This will give you a glimpse, right, about your job. Okay. Now, I'm not saying America it's a bad country, right? Just because it's a bad country, I mean, just because there's bad people doesn't mean it's a bad country. All right. The world is neutral, right? It's always the people that corrupts it. Okay. It's nothing wrong with the land. Mhm. It's nothing wrong with what it represents, right? It's always the people, right? And you have to be aware of it. Okay? This is not negative, positive. This is the nature of things. It's just a cycle. Huh? Things get corrupted along the way, huh? Not by choice. It's because it's just by nature. Huh? Things get corrupted, right? And there's always, you know, time to clean the house. It's always been like that, and it's always time is circular, right? But yeah, guys, like I said, experience. It's a different animal, and even in moments when you don't have a nickel on your pocket, you don't have a penny, a dollar in your wallet. If you possess certain knowledge, right, that you can inspire people, okay, you can motivate people to become their own leader, right, to become the best of who they can become, right? Just because you spoke a word, or just because you shared a story because you were there, right? And that's sexy, man. That's sexy, right? I'm gonna give you a short story. It might sound a little bit fucked up, but let's see, like people who go incarcerated, right? I've been seeing and watching a lot of young people struggling in the dating life, right? A lot of young people say, women, are on OnlyFans and they don't want to be with guys, la 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 la. It is true. It is true. OnlyFans and other apps have kind of like made the dating game a little bit more challenging. But the people who do time, even young people in juvenile, when they come out, they've been exposed at a young age 7, 9, 10 years old, 12, right? Being troublemakers. They broke the law and they were put in juvenile. And they come out after a few months or years, and you see them getting women left and right. Okay? That's just another example. I'm not saying go break the law. I'm not saying that. It's just observation. Okay? Because they're part of the world too. And a lot of these young guys, right, coming out of juvenile, they're not scared to talk to women. They're just like they're very like they talk their mouth, they run in their mouth left and right, never shutting up. And women like that, especially young women, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, they fought for that, right? And a lot of young men's like, man, I went to high school, I'm a good guy, and these girls are after the bad boys. Well, it's because they've been exposed to something traumatic. And when you're exposed to something traumatic, it's something bizarre that happens to your psyche, your body, that because you've been exposed and you have gained knowledge, regardless of how painful that trauma was, you gain knowledge and experience is just attractive by nature because you know something that other people don't know. You've been exposed to something that people don't know that exists, even if it's bad, right? Even if it's bad. We see it all the time. How many serial killers pick up nines and tens? Very beautiful ladies. And they're serial killers, right? Straight criminals, right? Why? Because they've been exposed to a lot of stuff that regular, normal civilians haven't. Mhm. And that's why. Do they pay a price? And yeah, of course. There's always a price to pay. Mhm. That's why experience is neutral. Okay. You choose your experience, and sometimes you don't choose it. You're just exposed to things. But take advantage of that. If you've been exposed to something painful, remember that there's knowledge. You have to decode it. You have to extract it from there. Okay? Never fool yourself that I've been through this and that when I was 5, 7 years old, 10, 15. It's extremely painful. There's knowledge. You just have to calm down and not panic and breathe, and there's knowledge. Okay? You can convert that into money, networking, okay? Because it was an experience. You were exposed. That's how it is, guys. That's how it is. And one thing, in my opinion, I do believe in medicine, but I believe when people abuse medication, I think they suppress the beautiful and the gems that they have achieved through life and through suffocating your body with drugs and medication. It doesn't allow that beautiful experience to come out with lyrics or words, right? Or stories. So I'm gonna wrap it up with this, guys. What's up? Computer said Baron Trump 2028. Yeah. The lineage. They're saving the lineage. Life isn't always shining and diamonds. It took a lot of time and a lot of grinding. Been a lot of beer spilled in my environment. Yeah, well, that's true. But remember, pain, successes, failures, all that is just experience. It's just experience, right? You can be in a dungeon for 50 years, right? You get out. You don't even know that person probably doesn't even realize how much insight that's what it's called. Insight he has or she has, right? But it will be a matter of time that somebody can tap into that, right? Trigger that in him, right? And sometimes that's why you have people like me that I like when I see people get out of their own prisons, right? I just love that. I love when I see people coming out of their own prisons that they build on themselves. Okay. Oh, I've been through this, I've been through that. That's knowledge, my friend. That's knowledge that can be converted into something, right? Instead of working in a job that you hate, right? And seeing the supervisor, the manager that you really want to get rid of them, metaphorically, right? You have knowledge, you have experience, but you don't know, Alex, how painful. I might not know. I don't have to know because I have my own pain, right? And I have translated it, converted it into something, right? Into stories, knowledge that can people reflect and relate with their own pain. Mm, And this is how we become better, right? Not only better, but more efficient, okay? Almost like a perfect divine being in this earth, right? Sexy, beautiful, handsome, right? Non hesitant. Don't hesitate, right? I'm gonna wrap with this one, bud, right? How can you jump into something that you don't know, right? How can I just have the courage to do something, right? There's gonna be moments that you don't know the outcome of everything, and that's okay. Sometimes you will know the outcome of something, and that's okay. Both, regardless if you make the decision to go all the way in, you already winning, my friend. You already winning. A lot of people don't even know that they have the power to make a decision. People are going to tell you you made the wrong decision. Yes, but that doesn't take the fact that it was still a decision. And if you made a decision, that means you were exposed to something. And if you were exposed to something, you gain experience. And if you have experience, you have currency, right? All right, guys, take care. Why are you yelling?